conversations like that on a daily basis. I wasn't sure if there was a nice way to approach that.
Now, do you find it, does this customer call you, Brad, at more certain times during the day, and emails you more times during the day?
Anytime she emails me, she calls me.
Right.
I'm sorry?
Right after. Anytime she emails me, she calls me.
But do you usually find her emails come in the morning, the afternoon?
All throughout the day, depending on, when something's scheduled or this or that, but you're just spending a lot of time on a customer that, we like, but doesn't give us an incredible amount of business.
When do you usually get your first email from her? And you notice the times?
Well, yesterday she asked me what time we open, which I just cringed at that question, so.
Well, what time do you open?
We open at 8, so she knows that now.
All right.
It's just very specific to her. I mean, you have customers here and there, but I deal with her pretty consistently a couple times a week, and she takes a lot of my time, and it'll just tie my day up when I have other things to do. And like I said, I have to respect it, but I wasn't sure if there were any techniques to essentially respectfully tell her, like, this is what's going on, this is how it is, I'll keep you updated, I'll call you if anything changes,
Okay.
and then end it there, but it always cycles and she never ends it, and it's hard to just be like, hey, stop.
All right. So you just want to see how we can use some of those techniques to help manage the customer a little bit more. One of the things that we're going to spend a little more time on today is some of you talked about having to vent, tolerate people venting and so forth. That technique was one of those things on the list, but we're going to go into it a little more detail today. I have just found that that technique has helped me more than just about any single technique I'm going to be showing you. So, and once you master that, how to handle upset people or recognize when people are anxious about things, Jerry, the employee whose girlfriend broke up with them or what have you, those are the kind of situations that you really can become a master at mastering. And you'll be amazed at the situations you get called into. Maybe you don't want to learn it, but you'll be amazed at what you get called into. And there is when you have many people reading the email. And generally it's going to be more than, let's say, 3 to 4. And I found this out because I had to organize training and I have to summarize what we're going to be doing. And I first came across this when I was a sales manager at Nashville City, and I had to communicate with the people who referred us business. Well, it was kind of hard because some people want a detailed update on every visit we made with their referral. Other people said, well, just tell me you met with them. So when you have a group email, one of the things I found really effective, and I think we talked about this over lunch after some of you left, but you can divide up the email into 2 parts. Because some people are just going to want the crib notes. Others are going to want more detail. And so what you do is you put like the executive summary up here in the first few lines. And then you say for those, just say something like for those who want more information, continue reading, or there's more information below, or I'm elaborating below. And that's a good way for these folks to know they don't want this information, but then it's also good for these folks who really want that information to feel like, you're providing them with some detail on that. And it allows them to do it, allows them to show it. And sometimes what I would do down here, and sometimes when I did this, I go, sometimes I just felt like I was wasting my time because people are never going to read this. So I would put in some funny remark. And then I would get calls and people go, oh, that was pretty funny what you put in there. So I kind of knew that they were reading the email. So some people did appreciate that. But then you did have the people who appreciated the fact that you just told them what the points are and they didn't have to read the rest of the email. So that's a very effective technique I found that can help you in those kind of situations. So Dan, are you saying management is more about maybe managing the process?
Yeah, they're more like managing what's going on. As a leader is actually leading associates and stuff I guess into the
Would you
future.
say it's almost like teaching in a way,
Yeah.
the training? Okay,
Yeah.
so there's more of a teaching and
Yeah.
Maybe mentoring.
mentoring.
I think leadership's more of a personal quality. Management's almost like an appointed position. People, when you're a leader, people will just be drawn to you because of your personal characteristics and just possibly just because you're a persona. Management is almost just like an appointed position. Like people would almost choose to follow a leader almost subconsciously, but people have to follow their management because
Okay.
I'm the man.
So Ben, you kind of look at leadership as a quality and management as a position. So if I infer from that, it almost seems like you could have a leader who's not a manager.
Yeah, you could.
Also, it seems like you should all, Kevin?
I kind of like Drucker's definition of this, Peter Drucker, and what he says is that leaders do the right things, managers do things right. And it really makes sure that you're choosing the difference between the two. And that leaders, by example, and more humanistic, and managers tend to focus on achieving tasks.
Okay, do things right, do right things. Okay, let me ask you this, based upon some of this, do you think someone could be a leader and not really know it?
Oh, yeah.
Why do you say that, Kathy?
I think probably just to lead by example. People don't realize, you don't realize sometimes the qualities you possess. I think sometimes it's brought to your attention that you don't even realize you're a leader and somebody else recognizes that in you.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Have you ever been in a situation where you just started doing something before you knew it? It seems like either people were copying you or following you. Okay. I had, one of my first experiences of this was one of my first jobs. I was in retailing and there was a gentleman, I still keep in touch with him, he's 91 right now. So he bought, in retailing, he bought ladies' coats and furs. And so it was always kind of nice when I was his assistant. I wasn't married at the time, but it was always, the new associates that started, you say, oh, you want to come up and try on a fur, or. But what was neat was he was so well known in the market, and he only had maybe 2 people that he managed, but he was so respected and everything, is that people all through, at the time we were at, Neal's, which eventually became part of May Company, Kaufman's, and then Macy's. So at least when it was part of the May department stores, there were people all across the country calling him to find out what he was buying and what he thought of the different coats and the different furs and what was going on. And it was amazing. He was like a leader, and I kind of liked working for him because none of the upper level executives really messed with him because he knew what he was doing. So that was the first experience I had with someone who was like a leader, but not really a manager. So one of the things I would have you think about is that, it's interesting, you mentioned positional and relational, and Haviland's comment about being born a leader. Here's something that you may want to consider, is in an organization I have what you call organizational power. And over here I call de facto power. The difference between the two is organizational means that the organization is giving you the power, the authority to make decisions for certain things for the rules. So this is more of a position. Very much what Kevin was saying about the difference. The de facto power is really more, people just follow you for some reason. Their leadership program was designed to get people into management. And what they found out, not too many people wanted to be managers. So what we helped them do, what I helped them do was define leadership, and they came up with 4 basic things for their organization. What was a leader? One was not only management, but outreach to the community, initiating a program, and maintaining programs. And they had various programs, and that's how, once we did that, and we repositioned it, we didn't call it leadership, we called it a legacy program. They went from, they only had about 150 people, instead of 2 people wanting to be in the program, they suddenly had 28 people that wanted to be in the program. Because now they positioned it in a little bit different way. And And so this is the tough part, is that sometimes when you have the management and you have this conflict with leadership. But again, you can be both. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you a couple questions. And this is important. Now, what I'd like you to do, and some of this is going to fit in with your definitions, but for the purposes of helping me, so that you can help me help you. Anybody ever see Jerry Maguire? I love that scene. What I want you to think of leadership and management is that leadership is about people, management is about things. Now the one thing that's kind of missing here, but it kind of works with it, is that I want you to think about change. What I try to show people is that management is the difference, a lot of the difference between leadership and management is the degree of change that you want. And I use the phrase, oh, someone says, oh, how are you doing? Or you ask them how they are doing. I say, oh, I'm managing. I'm managing. So managing kind of has a status quo feel to it, or just an incremental change. Now lead, which is part of leadership, you can't really lead. It implies motion. You can't lead without some sort of change. Okay, you see that? So in a way, when you start leading, you're going out here and you're taking people to another place, another dimension, the twilight zone. So it says, you drive us wild, we'll drive you crazy. Now, why do you think I would highlight that? And how does that relate to a workshop, a seminar, our meeting, our gathering?
Employees drive me crazy.
I'll say employees drive you crazy.
I'm not afraid. Let me rephrase, my employees drive me crazy.
I concur. Okay. You drive them wild then?
I try to drive them away as best I can, but it's like a bad penny, they keep coming back.
All right. That's a good interpretation. I guess I was looking for another interpretation of her. Anybody else? This is like 20 questions. That was a good interpretation, but it wasn't the one I was looking for.
I'm getting something like about, performance and motivation, I guess, out of it.
Okay.
Thinking of, it in a positive spin, you drive us wild, we'll drive you crazy.
Well, this kind of relates to someone had put down something about trying to communicate passion and instill passion in your folks. Kind of relates to that. But let's say it relates to us here, right now. Let's start with that. Everything it relates to. Jeff? I know, but you were saying something right before you were eating, so I thought you had the answer.
Maybe that's the answer.
Okay. What's synergy?
Keeping everyone, together, working on the same thing. Different groups, but all coming together.
Yeah. Now imagine Kiss is on stage. Any rock group, any band is on stage, and they're saying, you drive us wild, we'll drive you crazy. Now what are they saying?
Give us something, we'll give you something back.
Exactly. And what is it that you're giving?
Passion, enthusiasm.
Energy.
Passion, enthusiasm, energy. And so how does that work with the two sides, the crowd and the band?
I'm just thinking about when you see all those fish in the ocean and you see them all come together and then all of a sudden they're just one big mass.
Okay.
And they're all unison, they're all together.
All right. Well, let's, one of the things we can take a look at, it's kind of like a feedback loop. As the crowd responds to the music, they're going to try hard. What he's saying is that we're going to try hard to play for you. What we would like you to do is respond if you like the music. And as you respond to like the music, that encourages us to play even better. And if we play better, then you like the music better. And it keeps a synergy, a feedback loop where you get a constant recycling and an escalation and a spiraling effect in which you start achieving a much higher level of performance and enjoyment. And that's the essence of that. And so in this particular case, I enjoy getting feedback. All right, so the more I work to get your feedback, and the more you interact with me, the better I do, and hopefully the better you do. And that's how it works. So now how does it relate to your people? Is that somehow something has to get started. And that's what we're trying to do, is interject this synergy where you suddenly create a better level of performance. And I'll use an example. I was at one time given an employee. No one, this was before I went off on my own, no one really cared to work with her. She had a really acidic personality. She'd come in the morning, she just doesn't like waking up in the morning. She likes sleeping in. But yet, to her credit, she was very bright. She had an MBA, was very bright and could write, and just had the kind of personality that was very difficult for people to work with. So every time in the morning, I would always say, "Cheryl, great morning, isn't it?" And she just looks at me. At first, she gives me a mean look, but then I do it every morning, and I know she doesn't like it, and she knows what I'm trying to do. And so we began developing a rapport that way. And so it just became sort of a game. I say, "Oh, great morning," and she gives me a sour look. So it became more of a game rather than her personality. What was really ironic is that we lost the person who was running our client management system. He just got up and quit one day. And no one else knew how to run the thing. So Cheryl, I talked to her, she jumped in and took care of it. So she ended up becoming a very productive employee for us because she was smart enough to figure out the data, but also smart enough to figure out how it related to our business. So it saved all of us. And in the end, I was able to get her a special bonus for doing that. Now, it's also the kind of thing where how you relate to your people can work the same way. I'll give you another example. Just this past week, I was down in Austin, Texas, visiting family. I have a 5-year-old niece, a 2-year-old nephew, and my wife and I were sleeping in the guest room, and all of a sudden the children wake up, they come downstairs, and the parents were just really appalled because they started playing, then they started fighting, yelling and screaming and everything, and so obviously it woke us up. And so that evening we sat down, and they have a ritual where they go, what part of your day did you enjoy most? And then they asked the question, what are you thankful for? And I thought it was a pretty neat exercise. So the little girl, her name's Madeline, said, "Uncle Mike, what was the favorite part of your day?" So she was the leader at the time asking this question. I said, "Oh, Madeline," I said, "I guess this morning when I woke up to the sounds of 2 cheerful children playing and laughing." And she just looks at me and she goes, "Uncle Mike, we weren't playing, we were fighting." And I said, "Well, you can interpret it that way. I was interpreting it this way." So in some ways, it's a matter of how you interpret things, and sometimes you have to be kind of off the wall and off the charts on that way. And that's how you begin developing some sort of synergy with people. You have to take gambles, and you have to extend yourself.